Imagine being a child, dragged into a gleaming lab where experiments are done on orphans and you're not sure if you'll ever walk out the same. That's the nightmare at the heart of today's chapter.
It's a scenario that sends a shudder down your spine, not just because of what happens, but because of how the people in charge act. I'm excited to break down what makes this laboratory chapter so haunting.
We'll get into why Eddie starts to taste real power, how relationships shift under pressure, and just how deeply the system manipulates everyone from orphans to caregivers.
And we'll talk about Dora's downfall, the ethics of the scientists, and what Little Miss and Juliet teach us about comfort and survival. So stay with us as we unpack these tensions, one twist at a time.
Let's start with Dora. She's basically heartbroken after being accused of infecting the porridge. It's like everyone turns on her in an instant. And honestly, you feel the unfairness.
What's wild is that Eddie almost feels sorry for Dora, but only almost. She doesn't stand up for her and even makes a snarky comment about Dora's hygiene, totally making things worse. It's a moment where Eddie's self-preservation trumps empathy.
It says a lot about how power works in this place. If you're vulnerable, you're disposable. Eddie's indifference is pretty calculated, but you can't help but wonder if she's hiding some guilt under all that bravado.
Absolutely, and it sets the tone for the rest of the chapter, especially as Eddie begins to realize her own influence over Madame Miriam and Little Miss.
Shifting gears a bit, Juliet suddenly becomes Little Miss's caregiver after showing real tenderness toward Larissa. That change really shakes up the household dynamic.
Madame Miriam even warms up to Juliet, calling her our Eddie. It's fascinating how being useful or just being in the right place at the right time completely changes your status here.
And Little Miss herself is reaching out for comfort, asking for forgiveness when she lashes out. She's clearly scared and sick, yet clinging to hope that anyone will care.
It's a window into how desperate these kids are for genuine affection, even when it comes from someone who admits she cares about them as much as toe jam.
What really gets me is how quickly Eddie moves to capitalize on her new status. She's suddenly the favorite, she knows it, and she starts plotting her next moves.
She even talks about using the bird to win Little Miss's favor, but already plans to get rid of it when it outlives its usefulness. Eddie is always thinking 2 steps ahead, manipulating those around her, even if she won't admit she actually cares.
But beneath that tough exterior, there's some real emotional conflict. She sort of denies her own fondness for Little Miss, but her actions like defending Dora, even if only half-heartedly, tell a different story.
It's like she's testing out what power feels like, but also bumping up against her own conscience. And that tension just keeps growing as we head into the lab scene.
The lab itself is described in such a cold, clinical way. It's enormous, high-tech, and honestly a little terrifying. Meat and vegetables grown artificially, kids experimented on like lab rats.
What unsettled me most is the way orphan wardens are paid off to hand over children for experiments. The way they call these kids savages strips them of their humanity, making the whole process seem normal when it's actually horrific.
And then there are the doctors. Eddie calls them Frankenstein 1 and 2, which is such a pointed reference. It's a reminder that science without ethics can become monstrous really fast.
Exactly, and the scene of Little Miss being poked and prodded while Juliet tries to comfort her is just gut-wrenching. It's a perfect example of how clinical detachment can be weaponized.
It's in this lab environment that we see Eddie's softer side come through, almost by accident. She shields Larissa from the worst sights, offers comfort, and even threatens to punch the doctors if they hurt her.
What's so revealing is how instinctive her affection is. She finds herself stroking Larissa's hair, rubbing her back, all without thinking. It's like caring forces its way out, even when she tries to suppress it.
And after Larissa wakes up, frightened and alone, it's Eddie, not her parents, who helps her feel safe. That says a lot about how found families can sometimes matter more than blood.
It's bittersweet, though, because Eddie is so used to denying her own feelings. Still, this moment hints that her coldness might be cracking, just a little.
The word savage comes up again and again, sometimes as an insult, sometimes as a badge of honor. It's fascinating how the meaning shocr depending on who's saying it.
When the Mangerians use it, they mean someone unruly or less than human. But for Eddie and others, it's almost a symbol of independence and resistance. It's a reminder that language can be a weapon or a shield.
That duality really shows how fractured this society is. The labels people use reveal a lot about the power dynamics and who gets to define what's normal.
It also hints at why Eddie struggles with her own identity. She wants to belong, but doesn't want to lose that savage spark that might be her only way to fight back.
There's this horrifying moment where Handler Xavier is caught selling orphans to the lab. The kids are actually excited for their birthing day, not realizing what's waiting for them.
It's pure betrayal. The adults in charge are supposed to protect these kids, but instead, they're capitalizing on their vulnerability. That line about the special game in the laboratory is so chilling. It's like the ultimate loss of innocence.
This really shows just how indifferent or outright cruel the Mangerian society can be. They've normalized the unthinkable, all in the name of progress or power.
And through all of this, the children's eagerness just breaks your heart. It's a stark warning about what happens when people in power stop seeing others as human.
Let's wrap up with some key takeaways. First, the line between survival and cruelty gets blurry when everyone's just trying to make it through another day.
Second, even in brutal environments, real compassion can break through sometimes when we least expect it.
And third, words like savage can either wound or empower, depending on who's using them and why.
So, here's our practical step. Next time you see someone being treated unfairly, whether at school, work, or anywhere, try to speak up, even if it's just a small word of comfort. That small act can make all the difference.
Thanks for joining us as we dug into the dark, fascinating world of the laboratory. We hope you'll come back next time for more insights and conversations.